Morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. Today is February the 3rd. It is a Tuesday today. Overall markets, nice rally back towards the upside yesterday. SPYs close back towards the highs. Qs, nice bounce here as well, along with the SMH. We did have some Palantir earnings in the after hours yesterday. We'll talk about that. Of course, we do have AMD earnings tonight. A lot of things to kind of talk about here. Some nice setups as well. Apple moving nicely yesterday towards that earnings high. We had a couple other names we'll kind of talk about here in a second. But yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Before we head on to the charts and take a look at this earnings calendar, good morning, ANL. Good morning, KO, Victor. What's up, everyone? Cody, Arnold, Lamit, Ryan, I am, Robert. Good morning, 50, Humming, Deuce, B Roots, Wakey, Uric, Cinna, Big, Andreas, Stefan, Up, Miss. Good morning, Miss Reggie, Juan. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. First things first, let's pull up the economic calendar, and then we'll take a look at, of course, the earnings calendar here. So as you can see, coming into this week, we have a couple red folder news events, but with the government shutdown, we'll see how long this shutdown does last. But as you can see here with Wednesday, we do have some ADP non-farm enrollment along with the ISM services on Thursday. We do have unemployment. It is tentative. So we'll see if we end up getting the report for the unemployment. And of course, on Friday, we do have consumer sentiment, which is going to be key. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is what we have for the red folder news events coming into this week. As for the earnings calendar, we still have a decent amount of earnings to keep in mind. So we just have Palantir. We'll take a look at Palantir. Ended up reporting nicely, up about 10% here in the pre-market. Some other big names to keep an eye out for, and what's really going to help the overall semiconductor to give us a little bit more guidance on the whole theme. AMD along with SMCI. This is going to be tonight at this is going to be tonight after close, and then of course on Wednesday we have Google along with ARM, and then on Thursday we do have Amazon here as well. So we have a decent amount of red folder news plus earnings coming into this week. Now let's go on to the major indices. So let's go into the ES. First things first, as you can see here, the key levels that we have marked out coming into yesterday was, of course, our last week's lows. You can see end up pushing underneath. Once we end up getting that reclaim, we end up having this nice pushback towards the upside. So within the first 5 minutes of market open, this was a key sign here on the overall indices, on the SPY and the Qs, that are most likely going to end up gravitating back towards the upside. Now for the ES, key levels that we have is going to be our last week's highs along with of course our Friday's highs. So moving forward, this is going to be our exact level we're going to keep an eye out on. Plus, of course, now we're going to have our last week's highs marked out. If we do want to see longs towards the upside, we're either going to be looking for a couple scenarios. Number one, bounce and maintain above our previous day highs for this continuation back towards the upside. Another possible scenario now is going to be the bounce off our Friday's highs, 69.90, for this push back up and towards our last week's highs here as well, 70.40. So this is what we have for the ES coming into this week. What we like to see is really maintain above key levels if you do want to see continuation. As for the SPY chart, let me actually just mark out another level here as well. We can just mark out our previous day highs, which is essentially just going to be that 70.17 here on the higher time frames. As for the SPY, the key levels that we have coming into today, there's going to be our 698 along with that 694. Our 698 is actually our all-time highs. So if you go on to the hourly chart here for the SPY, you can see how many touches we have off this general area. What we like to see here, right, higher lows are being built. If we do want to see upside here now, right, we like to see that pullback, or of course now it's going to be the break above our all-time highs for continuation. So for the SPY, let's go back onto the lower time frames here. Now let's go on to the 15-minute time frame. Key levels that we're going to have marked out coming into today. We can actually refine this level, and then of course we can mark out that previous day highs here as well. So for the SPY, we have a couple scenarios that we're going to be looking for today. One scenario is going to be, of course, that bounce that we have off our previous day highs for continuation. Another scenario above our 698 for continuation higher, or now, of course, as I mentioned, that bounce off our 694, which is our Friday's highs of last week for this continuation higher. You can see buyers stepped in yesterday right off this level. We very much well could come back down in towards this level for this continuation higher. So 3 scenarios for the SPY chart coming into market open. For some upside with the overall markets, right, continue to push higher. SPY and Qs bouncing nicely here as well. This is what we're going to keep an eye out on. There's really only one short scenario here for the SPY, which would be another potential kind of pop and fade, right? Another pop and fade here off our 698 for a push down in towards that previous day close is also in play here as well. But with the higher time frames leaning a little bit more towards the upside, we're going to be looking for major dips to go long here in the markets. As for the NQ chart that we have marked out, of course, is our last week's lows. That was the key level that we have marked out yesterday. As you can see, within the first 5 minutes of market open, strong buyers right off the bat in between its previous day's range. Next major level that we have marked out was, of course, that Friday's highs. Now you can see for the NQ, right now we're basing above our Friday's highs of last week. Now moving forward, we just like to see it maintain above our 25,920 for this continuation towards this upside. Another possible scenario now above our pre-market highs for this pushback towards the highs here as well. The area that we broke down from, of course, is our 26,200. That is the key level here that we broke down from. So this is a really this is really going to be the level we're going to keep an eye out for on the NQ moving forward, at least for some upside here. So keep an eye out on, of course, your Friday's highs of last week. Next levels towards the upside is going to be this old high, 26,160. As for the QQQ, key levels coming into today, what we have marked out was that 619 within the first 5 minutes, within the first 15 minutes, super strong buyers stepped up. And now we're above our Friday's highs of last week. Now moving forward, you can see buyers are stepping in so far above our previous day highs. What we like to see is it maintain above that 628 for that continuation towards the upside. So keep an eye out on the QQQ 628 hold for this push back towards the highs. Next level that we have marked out is going to be that 633. So this is what we can have marked out here for the QQQ coming into today. Only way I'm interested in a potential mean reversion is if price broke underneath your 628, hold underneath your 628 for a potential push down in towards that 623. Only way is if SPY rejects off our all-time highs, and then we also have the QQQ underneath that previous day highs. Besides that, we're going to be looking for that previous day highs hold coming into market open. As for some other tickers that we have, we'll end up going on gold and silver here. Nice kind of bounce off the lows in a second. As for the SMH, you can see super nice bounce, basically exactly off our key area, which is our higher time frame 396. You can see this is a okay. We should be back. Can you guys hear me? And can you guys see my screen? If you guys do have any issues, you guys can always refresh your stream and it should be all set. Yeah, I'm back. Refresh and it's back. Okay, perfect. All right, so for the SMH, as you can see, reclaiming back above key levels here. If we go into the hourly chart, maintained above our 396, which was a higher time frame key level of support. Now we're reclaiming back above this 408 here as well. So moving forward here, at least for the key levels, what we can have marked out for the SMH, really the levels that we broke down from, we can also now mark out that previous day highs here as well. So we can mark out our previous day highs. Some other levels we can kind of adjust it to that previous day close, or even you can mark down into that 401. But really the main key level coming into today here for the SMH is going to be this previous day highs, this 412. If we do want to see some continuation towards the upside, really now we like to see it maintain above this 412 for continuation higher. Another possible scenario, if it does break underneath, come back down in towards that previous day close, we could be looking for the reclaim back above our 412 later into the session. Either way, our main objective, of course, is going to be that last week's highs. We'll see how AMD earnings shapes this up here as well in the after hours. And then, of course, we do have SMCI earnings here as well. So SMH, the rest of the major indices bouncing nicely. So now let's go on to some of the tech names that I have as well. So if you guys do have any tickers or any charts, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. As for the IWM, you can see this level. We kind of talked about our previous retest. Previous level of resistance turned into support, and now you can see this one moving back very nicely. So nice bounce off the lows. Buyers are stepping exactly where they're supposed to, which of course is our 258. Now the key levels that we're going to have marked out 262. Really maintain above our 262 for continuation, or now above our previous day highs for that continuation higher here as well. So this is what we have for the IWM. Now let's head on to some tech names that we have coming into today. Let's first start off on Tesla. So Tesla, as you can see here, is primarily just consolidating inside of a range. The key levels that we have marked out, really this was the range that we had drawn from last week. Now you can see it's basically ranging and bouncing off our key lows, which is this 417. So this is the key levels that we have on Tesla. And now the other key levels that we have marked out is, of course, that 435. So coming into today, and coming into this week here for Tesla, you can see some buyers stepping in right off our key level of support. We do have this mini gap fill back towards the upside, up and towards that 430. If we go into the regular trading hours, you can see miniature gap fill back towards the upside. So coming into today here for Tesla, key levels that I'm going to have marked out is that earnings low. If we can maintain above our 425, we can see a push back up and towards that 430. Right, nothing too crazy here on Tesla with it just being inside of a range. Another possible scenario here is, of course, above our previous day highs for that push up and towards our 430 here as well. There isn't too much room here on Tesla. Plus, the higher time frames is, of course, ranging. So you just want to be a little bit more cautious on this name. But this is what we have on Tesla coming into today. As for NVIDIA, this one also has been lagging the overall market. So Tesla and NVIDIA have been dropping compared to the overall market, which has been moving higher. As for NVIDIA, the key level that we're rejecting off of is, of course, that 193. We have multiple touches, and we're kind of rejecting off this key pivot point and pushing price all the way back towards the downside. And of course, we did have some news yesterday. That's what ended up dropping it towards the downside, right back down in towards that 186. You can see some buyers trying to step in here. So moving forward here on NVIDIA, key level 189. And we also have our 186. So if you do want to see a push higher, mean reversion, essentially this bounce off our 186 for a push back up and towards that 190. Another possible scenario, of course, is it going to be above that 189, which in this case is that previous day high. So this is what we have on NVIDIA coming into market open. As for some downside, now it's going to be, of course, underneath that previous day lows. If you can get underneath, you could be looking for weakness underneath that 186. As for AMD, so AMD coming into today, a super solid bounce right off the lows yesterday. Of course, this one does have earnings today, so the IV is going to be elevated. Key levels that we have marked out is that 236. Nice buyer stepped in above our previous day highs here as well. Now for AMD, key levels is that 250. So we have that 250 marked out along with that 245. If we do want to see some upside, bounce off this 250 for a push up in towards that last week's highs. But as I mentioned, this one does have earnings in the after hours, so you're definitely not going to be trading this one today. since the IV is going to be elevated, and we're going to wait for after earnings on this ticker. So we have AMD on Tuesday, which is today. We have Google tomorrow, and then on Thursday we have Amazon. So let's go on to Apple. So Apple was one of the main watches coming into yesterday. It was actually inside of a range, but it broke outside the range. So that's why we're keeping an eye out on Apple. So for Apple, we talked about this one being inside of a range. You don't really want to trade Apple in between these areas. But the key for Apple was the break above our 262. So right now, sorry, yesterday it was in between the middle of the range, but within the first really 15 minutes, solid push, pre-market showing some strength here as well. So within the first 15 minutes above our key high, which was that previous day highs. And then we're also above that 262 here as well. So you can see nice break, retest, continuation up and towards that earnings high. So this is what we have for Apple. Broke above the key levels, nice retest off that earnings high, and then we end up having this nice continuation right back up and towards this key level. So for Apple moving forward, if you look at this on the daily chart here as well, nice kind of mean reversion, bounce off the lows, of course, and then we end up reclaiming back above key levels, and now we're continuing higher. So now we're basically back at this key level of support that we end up breaking from earlier into 2026. So that was the key level here for Apple, which is that 270. So 270, that was the key level that we have marked out. We can actually mark this out here as well. Let's go back onto the hourly chart. Or let's actually go back onto, yeah, we can go back onto the hourly chart, mark out this key level support here. As you can see, a little bit of reaction here on Apple. So moving forward, Apple, it's going to have to get above our previous day highs if you do want to see continuation towards the upside. The main target that we had, of course, was that earnings high. So I'd be a little bit more cautious on Apple. Usually once it does hit your main objectives, Apple does like to consolidate quite a bit. So I'll be very cautious on Apple. Yesterday was in play just because it was day 2 after earnings. Now with it already hitting our main objective, which is that earnings high plus that 270, I'll be a little bit more cautious on Apple moving forward. As for Google, the key levels that we have marked out, of course, is that 335. We had our all-time highs level marked out here as well. Nice break and retest above our previous day highs. But this one now, of course, does have earnings on Wednesday. So this one, the IV is going to be elevated here as well. So I'll be a little bit more cautious. But for Google, moving forward, as long as we can maintain above our 346, we can be looking for continuation towards the upside. As for a few other tickers here, Microsoft, this one been lagging the overall market. We're actually right at a key level of support, which is this earnings gap that we had all the way back from April of 2025. We had a gap down from earnings recently here as well. So we have two gaps. We have this gap down. We also have this gap up. If we can defend this gap level, potentially we can see a V-shaped recovery, but it's going to be fairly difficult after earnings. So for Microsoft, I wouldn't be surprised if we slowly start to move towards the downside, towards this gap fill all the way back down and towards our 400, and then eventually have that nice bounce for a pushback towards the upside. So for for Microsoft moving forward, keep an eye out on your earnings low. So your earnings day low, which is that 422. If we cannot defend this level, then what we're going to do is potentially break underneath and have a bigger move towards the downside. So keep this in mind for Microsoft. As for Meta, yeah, Google contracts are expensive because we have earnings this week. Whenever a name does have earnings, the IV is going to be fairly elevated. As for Meta, key level that we have marked out is that 716. What we like to see is still the break above 716 for this continuation higher. Currently, you can see a couple sellers kind of stepping in off the 716. Next level here is going to be that pop and fade, or now, of course, underneath that previous day lows for that continuation towards the downside. Amazon has earnings later into this week as well, so we'll touch up on this a little bit later, of course. And then for Netflix, this one kind of right at our key level, which is that 82. So coming into market open here, before I head on to some other tickers, we'll keep an eye out on really there's not too much that I see coming into today. AMD has earnings tonight, so I'll be more hands off. Google is pushing nicely. This one has earnings later into the week. Amazon pushing nicely, earnings later into the week. I'm still going to keep an eye out on Meta here for a break above this 716 for this continuation back towards the upside. So we'll keep an eye out on Meta. As for Nvidia, this one kind of dropping, potential kind of mean reversion here off our 186 for a push towards the upside. Tesla lagging behind here as well. So Tesla and Nvidia aren't as optimal for upside unless we're looking for a potential mean reversion. Some of the names that do look good for upside, of course, do have earnings coming up. So you have to be a little bit more cautious. Apple was one of the main names to keep an eye out for yesterday. Today, we'll be a little bit more cautious, already having this nice push higher, plus hitting our earnings high in our 270. We'll still keep an eye on Apple for potential opening drive for a push towards the upside, but we have to be a little bit more cautious on this ticker. Besides that, there's still a couple names. We'll take a look at MU, Intel, and of course SNDK here. If you guys do have any charts, you guys can drop them in the chat now. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Okay, let me read the chat here. How do you decide on what pair / indices to focus on for every session? So it's just based off of the higher time frame. So if there's a higher time frame move, those are the ones we'll primarily be focusing on. So right now, all the higher time frame moves have been on the semiconductors, MU, TSM, Intel, SNDK. Those have been moving up nicely. So out of all the semiconductors, these are the ones we've been focusing on. As you can see, something like MU, where I look at the daily chart here, very, very bullish. We've been primarily looking for major dips to go long on something like this. Which indicator? No, that's just based off of if you trade any stocks or indices, you're going to have these. If you trade futures, it's not going to come default. So there's different indicators that you can use. Let me scroll down here as well. Did you go over Palantir? Let me go. Do you have a mechanical strategy for scaling out your trades? It's just all based off of the chart. So it's based off the chart. Let's actually go into Palantir first, but it should always be based off the underlying. With additional expiries, do you still trade weeklies or are you trading the new expiries? I'm trading the weeklies. We'll kind of look at this a little bit more once we have more information. But now, if you guys don't already know, we have the Mag 7 also has brand new expirations. So we have a new effect where basically we have Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays expirations now on all the Mag 7 names. Before we used to just have Fridays, but now we have more days that the contracts expire. So I'm still sticking with the Fridays expirations, but we'll take a look see where the volume's at moving forward. But currently for now, I am trading the Fridays expirations. When you're trading 0-day contracts, it is a little bit more difficult. When you're trading the major indices, there's expirations every day. So you can trade 0 days every day if you like. But whenever you trade 0 days, sometimes it is a little bit more tricky because you're battling against time. Okay, let's go on to Palantir. So Palantir, the key levels that I have marked out yesterday was, of course, the low that we have created, which was this key level of support. And you can see markets bouncing nicely back up towards this 164. So this 164 here on Palantir, of course, we had earnings here as well. I mentioned to keep an eye out on this level, right? Major key level support plus earnings. Now we're getting a little bit of bounce here on Palantir back towards the upside. So key levels on Palantir is really the area that we broke down from. So we can mark out this level. Just kind of drag it over. So for Palantir coming into today, the key levels that we have marked out is of course going to be your 165. Other levels that we can have marked out here as well is going to be that earnings high. And now what we also have marked out is that 158. So for Palantir moving forward, at least coming into market open today, what we're going to keep an eye out on here is going to be that 165. 165 along with our 160. If we do want to look for some upside here, break above our 165 for continuation higher. Another possible scenario here is going to be the bounce here off this 161 for this continuation higher here as well. If we do want to look for Palantir, preferably we look for a dip and rip, right? We want to see an IV flush if we do want to go long towards the upside. Chasing price after a big push higher is not going to be optimal, especially after earnings. You want to wait for that IV crush or an IV flush if you do want to take this. So keep an eye out on Palantir coming to market open for the dip down in towards that 160 for a pushback towards the upside. As for a few other tickers that we have here as well, MU. So we'll keep an eye out on MU moving forward. Just the higher time frame, first dip being bought up. The next level here is back up and towards our all-time highs. So we'll keep an eye out on MU for a push back up and towards all-time highs today, along with SNDK. The key levels that we're going to have marked out here is going to be now. At least the key levels yesterday was that 420. Once we're able to reclaim back above this level, nice mean reversion back towards the upside. Now for today here on MU, you can see this is basically the area that we broke down from. You can see right here, touch here, broke down, and then that's when we had that push towards the downside. Now the levels that we can have marked out is of course that previous day highs. And then we can kind of just drag this over up and towards the area that we broke down from, which is that 444. So touch here, and then we also have a touch at your previous day highs. So coming into today, keep an eye out on MU. If you do want to see some upside here, next major level here is going to be that 458. What I'll be looking for MU today is going to be the bounce and maintain above your previous day highs for this continuation up and towards our all-time highs. So this is what we're going to keep an eye out for MU. Another possible scenario, break above our pre-market highs, continuation higher here as well. So MU, main watch coming into market open for a push up and towards this 458. So yeah, just keep an eye out on MU coming into today. If you look at SNDK, this one, super solid bounce here as well. So we had the first day, which was showing a little bit of weakness here with earnings, instantly got bought back up. Within the first 15 minutes, a lot of buyers stepped in yesterday within that first 15 minutes of market open. So we broke back above a key level, which in this case was our 620. So above our 620, we can see our all-time highs. So really solid bounce within the first 15 minutes, push towards the upside. Now for SNDK, key levels that we have marked out is at 670. So that 670 here is key. As long as now we can maintain above 670, we can be looking for continuation up and towards our 700. And now another possible scenario above our 700, we can see a continued push towards upside here as well. As for SNDK, we have brand new option strike price here as well. So that is affecting SNDK. I think we have the 1,000 strike price. We have just a couple more expirations and some strike prices for SNDK, but at least moving forward, that is something to keep in mind, at least for SNDK today. Previous day highs is going to be on watch. As for Intel, another one, which is one of my favorites here, potential earnings reversal is in play on this ticker here as well. So let's actually just remove a couple key levels and just refine our levels here. So for Intel, we recently had earnings. Big gap towards the downside. Moving forward, we're going to be looking for this earnings reversal here on Intel. The key levels that we have marked out is going to be the area that we've rejected from a couple times. So as you can see here, this is our last week's key level. You can see rejection here, rejection on Friday, and now yesterday, nice kind of push towards the upside, broke above it, but ultimately closed underneath. Now with Intel above our previous day highs. So we're above our previous day highs, we're above our 49 key psych level here as well. What are the key levels that we have marked out? We have a couple key levels. We have our previous day highs, which is also our 50 key psych, and we have our 49 key psych. As long as Intel can maintain above these key levels moving forward, what I'm going to be looking for is this continuation back up and towards this earnings gap fill. So at least if you look at this from an hourly chart perspective, we can even mark this out as a whole area if we'd like. And we can just mark this all the way back down in towards that 49 key psychological level. As you can see here, resistance, multiple touches, broke back underneath due to earnings, multiple touches once again. Now for Intel moving forward, as long as you can maintain above this key area, which as you can see, multiple rejections, now we broke above, we can use this for a retest back towards the upside. So for Intel, I do like this one quite a bit. Buyers stepped in, right? Breaking back above key levels. Keep an eye on Intel above 50 for a push back up and towards our 54 here in the near future. So Intel is going to be one of my main watches here as well. As for TSM, nice bounce off the lows here as well. Key levels that we have marked out is going to be that 342. So 342. Other levels now that we have marked out is, of course, now going to be our last week's highs, which is that 345. So for TSM, key levels bounce off our 342 for this continuation towards upside. Another possible scenario above our 345, push up and towards that 350. So Intel, MU, TSM, SNDK, all semiconductors. Really, these are my favorite watches. I don't really see too much else on the Meg 7 wise, but you can see SMH very much bullish, still very much intact. I like to see continuation towards the upside. QQQ, nice bounce here as well, but of course, SMH along with the SPY has been leading the market back towards the upside, and the semiconductors are very much still holding up here as well. Okay, let me go on to a few other tickers and let me read the chat. Yeah, let me go on to a few other tickers here. Let me go into gold and silver. Let me scroll down here. I don't see a review specifically the option contract. The option contract I always go over is the exact same, right? It's always one out the money and weekly calls. I guess there's more expirations here now, but before it'd always be Friday's expirations and I'd trade one out the money or one with the most volume. That's the same thing every single time. Now with more expirations, I'll mention if I do trade, let's say 0-day contracts, or if I do take, let's say Mondays or Wednesdays expirations, I'll mention that. But as a default, it's always going to be Friday's expirations, one out the money or one with the most volume. As for gold, kind of nice bounce right off our key levels. This is exactly where we bounced from originally. Nice kind of mini V shape here so far on gold. Key levels that we have marked out yesterday was this exact level here. We mentioned potential kind of inverse shoulders kind of has to hold. So we're actually defending this 4680s nicely. So buyers are stepping in. Now for the key levels, we're just going to mark out these old highs. So basically the areas that we rejected from, we can mark out this key level here as well, which is this 15-minute order block. So for gold moving forward, we personally like to see it now above our 5,000 key psych for continuation higher. If we reject, we can see a little bit of a pullback down in towards that 4840s. As for silver, similar kind of thesis here, right? Kind of bouncing right at our key level support. This is the consolidation before this explosive move towards the upside. So buyers are stepping in. If you pulled up a volume profile here as well, similar kind of thesis. But you can see nice buyers stepped in exactly off our key level of support. And now we're back above our key level here as well. So nice bounce, a little bit of rejection, but now we're above it, maintaining above our key resistance level. Now that turned into support. And we like to see some continuation higher now on silver. 90, potentially 95 is in play. Yeah, SoFi recently had earnings, a little bit of a drop, kind of similar thing to Hood here. So SoFi, Hood dropping towards the downside. So honestly, very, very similar looking chart. So a couple of these high beta names dropping, right? Overall market, you can see Qs at all-time highs, but some high beta names like Hood. Palantir was dropping as well, had some nice earnings, but Hood dropping, SoFi, right? A lot of the names that have had the nicest moves as of late, of course, have been the semiconductors, at least moving forward. Right, Hood and SoFi, these are coming back to the retest, right? They're going to have this nice, we already had such a nice push higher. Now we're going to come back into like a 50%, 60% retracement, right? These are going to be good buy areas, right? 85, potentially all the way down in towards 65 if you can get there on Hood. As for SoFi, similar kind of thing, right? First kind of buy area 21, and then potentially if it can come all the way back down in towards 17, those are going to be the key areas moving forward. So that's what we have on Hood and SoFi. At least look at those on the higher time frames. Now let's go on to my game plan once more, and then I will get ready for market open. So coming into market open here today, the level is fairly clear. Previous day highs along with our Friday's highs. We can be looking for longs as long as you can maintain above that previous day highs. Shorts are in play underneath our previous day highs, of course. For the SPY chart, key level that we have marked out is going to be that previous day highs. longs above our previous day highs for a push up and towards our all-time highs. The only way I do like a short here on SPY is if we had a sharp rejection, or now, of course, underneath that previous day highs for a continuation. I'd much rather look for major dips to go long for the upside. As for my main watches today, they're just going to be the semiconductors. I'm going to focus in here on MU for a potential push up and towards our all-time highs. TSM is in play here above our 345. Intel is in play above our previous day highs here, 50 key psych. And then, of course, SNDK, we'll keep an eye out on SNDK above our 670 here as well. So all these semiconductors I'm keeping an eye out on. Palantir is even in watch as well. What I'll be looking for is a potential dip and rip for continuation higher. As I mentioned, we need that IV flush if we're going to trade Palantir. And then for some of the Meg 7 names, I don't see too much that I like on the Meg 7. We do have AMD earnings later today, so that is something to keep in mind. But for Tesla, potential kind of bounce for this mean reversion towards that 430. Nvidia, potential bounce off this 186. Apple, not as interested now just because we already hit our main objectives, but we'll still keep an eye on Apple just based off of yesterday's price action. But really, besides that, I don't see too much that I like on the Mag 7, as I mentioned, just because a lot of these ones have earnings or they're consolidating. But definitely keep an eye out on some of these semiconductors. They look super solid. Palantir as well, MU, TSM, Intel, and of course, SNDK. So that's going to be it for me today. As I mentioned, keep an eye out on the semis coming into market open. See if you guys asking some questions here as well. Intel looks great on the higher time frames. Yes, that is. Intel looks good above your previous day highs. Earnings reversal is definitely in play on that one. Do you think we'll get the JOLTS report? No, with this mini government shutdown, we'll see how long it lasts, but no JOLTS opening today. As for some other questions, TSM retested the 331. Beautifully didn't get the retest again until 334. Let's see, the 331 on TSM. These are the key levels that we have on TSM. So we have our 334. 331 was basically just kind of our previous day lows or our last week's lows here as well. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. Let's see. So does Tesla. What platform do you use? Robinhood, Webull. I personally use Moomoo and Interactive Brokers. I'll have like a full in-depth video. Potentially, I see some of you guys asking about options as well. I will come out with an options course very soon on my main channel, so keep an eye out for that. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't, of course, join the free daily watch list. That one is in the description. If you guys missed any tickers as well, of course, they're always going to be, I go in order. So I go in ES and Q. Those are my main ones that I go over right off the bat. Then I'll go over SPY, Qs, SMH, IWM. So if I missed any ticker, I most likely probably already went over it. So you can just go back onto the live session and you can go down the watch list. So yeah, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to get ready for market open here now, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.